Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of We Need to Talk. I'm your host, Malynda, and I am joined by my co-host, Karmel.
What's up, good people?
And in studio today, I finally coerced him to come back, my wonderful husband, Mr. John Volk.
She laid the guilt on me.
I did. That's what
Hard.
wives do. If you don't know much about my husband, which you probably do because I post about him all the time, he is a former corporate entertainment attorney, and now he works at Sony Pictures, and I'm very proud of all that he does. So
Cool.
thank you for being here.
Happy to be here.
Yay! How's everyone's fourth?
My fourth was good.
Mm-hmm.
It was
What'd
a
you
good
do?
Fourth. I ate a lot of food.
Mm-hmm.
Popped off some M80s. I'm not scared to say that.
I love it. I love it.
But yeah, it was fun.
Cool.
How was yours, Malynda?
It was good, and yours was good because you spent it with me. So look at God.
See that? See that?
So thank you again for tuning in. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Today we are talking about one topic and one topic only. We are talking about why representation matters. We're going to go in on this whole Ariel controversy, but we're going to talk a little bit just about representation in the entertainment industry. So, if you don't know what I'm talking about as far as Ariel goes, back in 1989, I was 3. A beautiful cartoon Disney movie came out called The Little Mermaid. Now Disney has been doing a lot of remakes of these live action films with CGI and real people, and it's really cool that they're kind of reinventing them and giving this generation the opportunity to see those stories in a new light. But there's a big controversy on who they cast as Ariel. They cast Holly Bailey, who is part of the duo Chloe and Halle that was discovered by Beyonce, and she just so happens to be an African American female. Now, this caused waves on social media that, pun intended, that was good, right? On social media that I was very proud of that, actually. Pun intended, yes. That I was actually very surprised by because first and foremost, Little Mermaid is not a real person. It is a mermaid. It is a fish. Mermaids do not exist, and everyone was so upset by the fact that she is a black woman.
So this is yeah, I was shocked as well. Not too shocked, but it's really been a lot. Like a lot more than I expected. I expected some, but it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
Like I get to some degree how people were getting all up in arms about Idris Elba maybe playing James Bond. Okay, because you're used to seeing a white guy play a white guy. Cool. It's a cartoon.
And he was white in the books, wasn't it? In James Bond books?
Right.
Right?
Right.
I
But this
get
is a
it.
cartoon.
Right.
It's literally fake. They're mermaids. They're not real people.
Right.
Like no one's tripping off of like the fact they cast a whole bunch of animals in Robin Hood. That's a cartoon, and they put animals. Robin Hood was played by a fox. No one got mad about that.
It's
So you put a black girl.
a little different, though.
How's it different?
It
It's a whole different species.
I think it's different because children enjoyed that.
Sure, that's what I'm saying. This is all for kids. This is all for kids. I guarantee you, there's not one kid that has an issue with this.
Well,
This is
not
all
current
adults.
kids.
This is
It's
all
all
adults.
adults because, and John, I mean, you've seen The Little Mermaid. I know it's been a long time, and I tease you because you don't remember any of these movies. But do you think there's a reason why our generation, because it's what they grew up with, that's why it's such an issue?
Dude, that's why Disney's so popular in general. I think Disney gets you when you're young. You buy into these characters; they become part of your childhood. You dress like them. You have action characters that are like them. You want to go to the theme park, and that follows you throughout your adulthood. This is another reason why you're completely fine spending hundreds of dollars going to the theme parks, right? As an adult to do this stuff. There's a reason also why Disney's just killing it at the box office with these live action remakes. Those are as much, and it's for those people who are now having kids that are introducing their children to these things, and it looks a lot different when Ariel it looks different.
Right.
I think that's essentially all it is. It's a part of it. Yes, on one hand it's a character, it's everything else, but on the other hand it also becomes a mythology.
Yeah.
For these characters that Disney has pumped out and breathed life in, and it I think for a lot of these people it's something that's almost foundational in their childhood that now looks different.
Right, right. And it's interesting. No, I think that's a fair point, and I completely get that. But what I am happy to see now is that for all the little children and girls of color that didn't get to have that part of their childhood, now we kind of get to pass the torch like, hey, little white girls with red hair, they got to have their moment, and they also got to have Cinderella and Belle, and the list goes on. I mean, I think I forget exactly how many Disney princesses there have been, and of course we had Tiana in 2009, but she was a frog for 85% of the movie, and that's a different conversation. But now people of color, children of color, get to have that experience of having someone
How
that represents them.
how did you look at and appreciate Ariel as a kid?
For me, because I was a singer, I just loved the music.
Yeah.
I loved what Tim Rice and Alan Menken did in all of those classic films. So I didn't really look at Ariel as like, oh, I can't be her or I want to be her. I was like, I just want to sing Part of Your World because that's how I'm feeling at the moment because I had a lot of feelings when
How
I was a
about the
kid.
other?
Yeah, and I only looked up to Sebastian because he was Jamaican. So
Right.
he was
But
obviously
that
he
and
was
that's who
obviously
you
black.
related, that's who you connected to, right?
Yeah.
But what were you asking, John?
Like, so there's Ariel, then there's other like. Would you have dressed up as Belle?
No, but I'm not down with people dressing up their kids on any other day other than Halloween. I think it's weird. I think it's creepy. I don't like when you go to Disneyland dressed as
Right.
Belle. It's just weird to me. Sorry
I
if you
didn't
do
mean
that. if
like
you're
on a
listening.
Wednesday. I meant
Yeah.
like on Halloween.
Some people do that on a Wednesday,
people,
though.
yeah.
And that's weird to me. No, on for Halloween, I never was I never gravitated towards being a princess. Never, not once. And when I was a princess, I remember later on, I should say, sorry, in elementary school, I think sixth grade, I wore a dress that my mom had gotten me, I think, in a crown, and I just said I was an African princess because I wasn't trying to be a different Disney princess, you know. But I think I was a little bit more advanced because I skipped grades and stuff, and I just was like, you know, they don't look like me, so I don't need to try to be like them.
Yeah, and growing up watching any Disney movie or any movie in general that wasn't an all black cast, I just watched the movie.
Hmm.
I just enjoyed it. It was
Yeah.
fun. Like, okay, cool. So it's weird now when you see like, you know, a slight ethnic change, and it's also considering our culture today. It's a lot of mixed kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it makes sense to now start making more blended films. So
Hmm.
it's just weird. People are not getting it. Like, I'm pretty sure Disney has a reason for doing this. I'm sure it's well thought out. And part of the controversy might be part of it as well. But it's like, okay, there's a lot of people who look at Zendaya or look at other black Disney kids or, artists or singers, and these white kids don't think twice.
Hmm.
They don't think, oh my gosh, she's black. I can't watch this now. I can't like that or whatever. They don't think anything. I'm sure, like I wasn't a kid watching a white kid. I just watched the movie.
Right.
It's the adults that I get what you're saying, John, about how I grew up watching this. This is what I'm used to, uh, and so it upsets me that it's different. But
Hmm.
there's things that I saw as a kid, like I watched The Karate Kid. That was like one of my favorite movies ever. And when Will Smith's kid got casted, I was like, this is not what I'm used to. This is
Right.
different, but it's okay.
Right.
It's different.
Right.
So I don't understand when it's switched, when it's us getting casted, there's this huge uproar.
I think we understand why there's an uproar. But for some reason, when it comes, it's always a black and white thing too.
Yes.
I feel like there's never like the Asian culture that gets upset about this or the Hispanic culture. It's always a black and white thing when it comes to casting for some reason. And I think, I mean, population wise, you guys probably would know after white people, what is the biggest population?
In
Hispanics.
America?
It is
probably.
Hispanics, right?
I mean, I would guess.
I would guess that too. But I
And
just feel
probably
like there's
Asian.
never been an issue when it comes to this stuff other than with black and white people.
What's interesting to me is like you're like, oh, it's Hispanics don't get upset about this, Asians don't get upset about this, but I don't even know if that's true. Like, only because
from what I've heard mainstream wise, I should say.
But real talk, I don't think I ever hear about them from anything, and that's just like because the people that I'm friends with in my social circles and whatnot, like I don't know of anything that rises to the level of maybe Facebook thinks that like I'm out of that algorithm or something. I don't know what upsets them. I don't know what they're excited. I don't see it. So like we think it's a black and white issue.
No, there's been some. I know there was. I think Scarlett Johansson was cast.
Oh,
in a
that's the
movie,
biggest one. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and it was
yeah.
supposed to be an Asian character.
that's
And
true.
it
Oh,
was
right.
True.
there
That's
was
true.
some backlash, but it's never anything like this.
It really
it was
isn't.
bad for a second, and then like okay, whatever.
So do you think though? Because I was thinking just when I was younger, and I would see white princess, I would just feel like, well, it's just not for me. Do you think that that's part of the attitude? Is that with the Hispanic culture and the Asian culture, they're like, well, that's just not for me. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. But black people are more like, no, I deserve to have that as well.
There is some of that, and I think also, to be honest with you, an Asian character or my Asian person can look at some Disney character and see themselves because their skin tone is not much different. So I can see, and Mexican girls can look at someone and see it's not that much different. It is drastically different for us.
When it's a black
It's a
person.
huge
Yeah,
difference.
yeah.
So I think that to me is also it's very quick to look at something and tell you, okay, that's for me or it's not for me. I think Asian and Hispanic communities also, they're not the entertainment, um, I guess, commodity that we are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's like I know there's a bunch of Asian romantic comedies coming out, and there's a bunch of Hispanic comics who are popping off, right? So they have their kind of their thing. They're just now getting to where we've been for a while.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I don't think they have that same cross pollination issue. Um, but then eventually that'll happen. And I still don't see it being like the black and white thing.
Right,
I've never
right.
seen it being as tense as it is with us.
Right.
Um, and like it's really crazy when people make a big deal about people that are not real people, but then we have stories of real people that have been cast as white folks
Mhm.
for centuries,
Yes.
and no one
Yes.
seems to have a problem with that. And
Right.
to this day, I always look at all old Ten Commandments movies and stuff like that. I'm like, these people are all in Africa,
Yeah.
and they're as white as can be. Not one problem, no
Right.
issues with this. So it's like we we're getting Ariel, and then or the girl who played Annie.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's like there's stories, you guys. I get this what you grew up with, it's what
And
you're
they're
used to
not real
seeing. They're
people.
not real people.
And the other thing that I was saying to some people on my Twitter arguments and everything, because y'all know me,
Mm-hmm.
was that race is not imperative to a lot of these people's
That's a
stories.
good point.
With Tiana, her being black and in the South and not being able to get funding, it was during the 1920s, hello,
Mm-hmm.
not being able to get funding for her restaurant, that was imperative to her story. Mulan has to be Asian, that's
Has to
imperative
be.
to her story. Pocahontas, don't even try to make her white because you can't. It would be
Mm-hmm.
not the same story. That's not what
Mm-hmm.
happened. And then Merida, who in the movie Brave, like all of their races and their cultures are imperative to their story. Little Mermaid is a fish. Let's just say that. So her race does not matter. I mean, people even tried to go to science by saying, well, mermaids live under the sea, so there's no way that they could have any melanated skin because they haven't been out in the sun for very long. I mean, people were really going there.
But not bring up the point that she's talking to a crab. Okay, so we're gonna use science to determine why her skin would be white, but not the
And a
fact that
seagull
and a
and a
seagull
fish
and
and
yeah,
combing her hair with the fork.
right.
You know, it's very
So wait, so
interesting.
Ursula, so has she been cast yet?
She hasn't.
Okay,
Melissa McCarthy apparently is rumored, but it hasn't been officially announced.
okay, because she's purple.
She is.
So what color is she supposed to be?
I don't know. But I don't know if you saw the meme that someone said it has to be a white lady because who else would steal a black woman's voice?
Wow,
I died.
that's great. That's
It
great.
is a bit much, but I'm happy that younger kids will now be able to see this version of Ariel. And I brought this up before. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a Disney TV version of Cinderella with Brandy as the lead, and then the prince was
Oh, that's
Asian.
right. Prince was Asian.
Whoopi
Yeah.
Goldberg and Victor Garber were the Asian prince's parents.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such, and then her stepmom was Bernadette Peters, and she had a black stepsister and a white stepsister. And nobody said anything about that. Granted, it was pre social media era, so they
Mm-hmm.
might have been an uproar, but that to me was beautiful because it truly was
It
colorblind
actually was pretty
casting.
good if I
It was
remember it.
great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was great. It wasn't a big theatrical release, but it was a TV movie, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what we would do. You'd
Mm-hmm.
stay home Sunday night. It's like 8 o'clock. The big Disney TV movie that was on, and it was fantastic.
I never saw it.
I'm not surprised. But another thing I want to talk about as far as representation goes, I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, we finally need people that our kids can look up to. We didn't have that growing up, but I did have that growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about this earlier, but I remember so vividly having multiple shows that had lots of all black cast or black leads. I mean, we had Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, we had Family Matters, we had Hanging with Mr. Cooper, we had Sister Sister, we had Cartoon The Proud Family, we had
Yeah, Rock.
Rock, we had
Fra-
Steve Harvey's
um,
show, Cedric had his own show, the Wayans brothers had
Right. Bernie Mac had his own show.
Bernie Mac has his own show.
Rest in peace.
So I never understood why people say that. And we had Moesha, we had the Parkers. I mean, the list goes on. We had the whole UPN. We had the Urban People's Network.
Yes,
okay?
we
Right.
did.
Yes, we did, John. And so I don't understand why people say, oh, we don't have this. I mean, granted, today BET isn't really good with their programming,
yeah.
but that programming was on point. But then all of a sudden, it just disappeared, and we haven't had anything to replace that.
Because I remember I had nights scheduled, and I think every night it was several black shows I would be watching.
Yeah.
And it was natural, it was normal, and they weren't all great. Some of them were like guilty pleasure shows that just
Right.
were really stupid that you
For
just
sure.
watched. But like we have none of that now, and it's funny. Like Blackish is the only real show I can point to. Some people like Empire. Okay, that's cool if you like that kind of thing. But Black is just like really it. And then
Right.
I know the platform has changed. We're more to Hulu and Netflix and Amazon Prime and all that. But, but those things have been replaced. Like I
Right.
don't see that happening now. And I don't know if that's who that's on or why that happened. So it's weird that we now have to like fight and struggle to get one person cast into a show and it's a big
Right.
deal. When we had a lot of shows where we didn't care what you did,
Right.
we had our own
Right.
thing.
How much of this though is like if you're a, if you're a television production executive and you're charged with making a show that you're going to license to a broadcast network, a lot of that times like you don't know what's going to pop for
Mhm.
people, right? Because it's everything is like if things are at a certain ratings threshold, you feel confident that it'll get renewed and that this is great and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, right? I don't know, and honestly, it's more along the lines to me of like, do you remember when like hip hop artists from like back in the like 90s and 2000s, someone would Nelly burst onto the scene, and then like all these St. Louis rappers would get signed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cash Money Records, and then like
Mhm. Taking over for the
Ja
99 and
Rule, right? Like
2000s.
those the murder, and then like
Yeah.
DMX, like these people, they suddenly get their friends all signed to things.
Mhm.
I'm thinking about like the Kings of Comedy. Someone gets signed, and it's like then they all have their own shows. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And it's like for an executive or something like that, you're thinking, wow, like
Mm-hmm.
this particular Bernie's show is really working. Let's sign up Steve Harvey. Let's
Mhm.
sign up, like Dale Hughley, and
Right.
like so that stuff tends to work. And like I don't know if that's something if there's something to that, and it's like something works until it doesn't.
Right.
I don't know.
So here's my question though, because in saying that, they're remaking all these Disney movies because they knew that they were a hit back in the
Yeah,
day. Why can't they look at black shows and see that they were a hit back in the day, and
you
then it might actually, especially with this like social justice movement and people of color wanting to be at the forefront now, people would be happy to see not those shows remade, but shows like that where you have all black cast or all people of
Mm-hmm.
color cast.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think you need to consider the state of television today versus back then.
Mm-hmm.
Today, there are problems are again like Carmel mentioned, right? People have shifted to Hulu and to Netflix, and in those Netflix, Amazon, Hulu. These places are signing up great talent creators that are
Mm-hmm.
taking their shows and they're unique. The creator of Blackish signed a deal with Netflix, right? Shonda signed a deal with Netflix. Like
Mm-hmm.
these people are porting over there. And honestly, those types of streamers can throw down the millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases, to these creators, where your broadcast folks can't do that
Mm-hmm.
because of again. So like if you are a broadcast network, you make your money by selling ad time, right? And your ad time gets a lot more valuable if your show is really valuable, right? But the people who are actually subscribing to those channels now are aging.
Mm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
why, like, honestly, like when you look at like CBS, the America's Most Watched Network, what kind of shows are on there? They're super middle America, super broad. They don't get offensive. They don't touch on a lot of things. It's programming when you get home after work and you just kind of want to have it on in the background.
Right.
So like that, like let's remake, Hanging with Mr. Cooper. Like, but why? Like though that demographic for those people, like that's not. It's a tough sell.
Mm-hmm.
And also that again, if that type of Chris Rock getting like a new show or something like that, like why would he do that? He's getting $50 million to do a Netflix special.
Right.
So then I
Right.
guess
Right.
then in a way that's kind of on us to uh, take our talents to Netflix, to Hulu, and pitch. Because I've heard this as well that John mentioned that they are picking up some talented creators. I mean, like Issa Rae. I mean, she's on HBO, but like we're out there. I just also I guess we don't feel like empowered to do so because we don't see enough examples of it.
For sure. For sure.
So
That's a huge thing.
and if it's your broadcast TV is definitely kind of gone away the dinosaur, so more is moving to more streaming platform. So I guess we need to figure out how to do that for ourselves, and
No, I
maybe
agree.
go the
Yeah.
way she went. Make it on YouTube and make it out for public consumption, and then have someone sign you that way. Because we're not going to get opportunities any other way other than showing that there is value.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get our own subscribers and viewers on our own, someone probably wouldn't give us a chance to do it.
For sure. And somebody mentioned that also on Facebook that they were happy that there was going to be a black Ariel, but they kind of were getting annoyed by us feeling almost like a second class citizen in the sense that we're just recycling something and not
Mm-hmm.
being able to have our own original content and programming anymore. But I also don't know how many people of color are working diligently to get into the writers' rooms or starting their own production
Everyone's trying to
companies.
do that. I'm
You
not to
know,
speak of people
no,
of color,
no,
but
of
like,
course,
but if these people feel called, they come out to Los Angeles with a dream to do this
mm-hmm,
stuff. They
mm-hmm,
have their, their spec scripts written and everything. Like everyone's trying to do, the best that they can in this sense. And I think that's probably regardless of color. And
mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, like the and for readers, for producers, like you're looking for fresh voices that really just pop.
Right,
And so like in that sense, like tell your story a
right,
lot of times that ends up happening, right? So like it's rough. Real talk though, like it's really difficult to get anything original made for features wise.
right,
It's just unless you are making some kind of indie darling that you go the traditional festival route, or you just know someone that gets kind of some mid-tier budget thing made, or it
right,
gets snapped up by a streamer.
right.
Look at again, you shared some meme or something about like what year is this, because they looked at the marquee of what was being shown, and
It
it was
was
like,
Toy Story, Men in Black, Chucky. It was just like all stuff
yeah,
from the
the
90s and
90s, yeah.
2000s. Yeah.
And that's because like, well, again, if you're gonna pour $100 million into a production budget, in the case of like a Men in Black or Toy Story is probably north of 150 or something.
Hmm.
Like you want to have some kind of built-in confidence that there's an audience still there that has
Right.
their appetites wet. A lot of
Right.
times, like so, there's a movie that just dropped on HBO that's called Bad Times at the El Royale.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of people who have seen it tend to really like it,
Yeah.
but that was done by Fox. It was done at a kind of a significant budget for that type of movie.
Well, also
It's
because the names that were in it, there was
yeah, it
yeah.
lot of
had
big names.
yeah, like A-list actors, and that was great. But it was a wholly original story that was a hard R, and it bombed. It just
Yeah.
tanked at the box. And
Yeah.
like when you have again, if you're an executive, I said television executive before, but now if you are a features producer, right?
Hmm.
Like these people, you're not gonna stick your neck out on the line and try to guess what's gonna pop. You look at to past performance. So like
Right.
when these things stand out, like the Bad Times at the El Royale, great movie, didn't resonate at the box office for whatever reason,
Hmm.
you're gonna be so much more hesitant to do that.
But how much of that do you think is actually marketing? Because I remember Ridley Scott saying, oh, if I cast so and so from so and so, I'm not going to get the funding for it. He's basically saying if I cast this person of color that nobody's heard of, I'm not going to get the funding. But it's like if you have a talent and you have a good script, shouldn't you just market it and show people what it has the capability of doing rather than just assuming because they're unknown people or it's an original story or it's people of color that it's not going to do well? Because if you already set yourself up to fail, you're going to fail.
I think it's it's a bit lazy the way a lot of producers and directors go at it, and I get it because yeah, they got to get funding and they want to make sure there's a return on their investment. So taking a chance on an actor that no one knows, but they fit the actual profile of the people that actually that are doing a historical film, so you should have historical accuracy.
Hmm.
Like, well, no, it'd be easier if I cast Russell Crowe and such, because I know people are gonna go out and watch him and watch this story. So,
Will they though? Because I don't think nobody's son Noah.
no,
That was a little bit
no,
different.
no,
Yeah.
Yeah,
no. What was the other one?
Well, then there's
The
Christian
guy.
Bale as Moses.
yeah.
That's another one.
Those are just stories that are in the public domain. You don't have to pay for rights for.
That well, see, there you
Yeah.
go.
So they're
You
like
would know.
de facto sequels
Right, right,
of the book.
right.
And see, then that gets into a whole other story, 'cause I keep getting into arguments with people about Moses being black and people in the Bible being black, and I'm like, I know you've been raised and trained to understand this as a certain way, so it's kind of hard to fight that. There's some cognitive dissonance that happen when you tell someone, yeah, Moses was hiding in Africa. You can't hide if you're white. So it's like these things are just, if you think about it, it doesn't make sense, but it's
Hmm.
okay because it's how you were raised and we get it. But when I reveal the truth to you about something, in light of what's going on in this situation, can you just see what we're saying? Like, it's so hard for people to get it. Like, if it's not a big deal for you to play a black person, why is it a big deal for us to play a white person?
Hmm.
It's just a character.
Hmm.
Like, it's not real people,
Right.
right? So I don't understand why there's so much angst in that. And going back to what you said, John, about how taking a risk. Like, why do you think they cast this black girl to play this character, knowing that this could happen? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, because think about it. We're sitting here on a Sunday talking about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
So I mean,
look at all the social. Not that they would anticipate like it would get to this kind of fever pitch,
Mhm.
but in general, the company that can take those kind of calculated risks is a Disney, because they just have um, a firm grasp on all this stuff.
Hmm.
Um, Again, I don't know if they thought that it would take this tact, but by and large, is any of it bad?
That's the thing. And you saying the word risk, I want to get to the point where casting a person of color is not a risk. And that's the
But
problem.
yeah, so
I
no,
get you're saying because it's a character switch from what people know,
yeah.
but I wish we could get to the point where it's just like, oh, she acted the part well, she sings the part beautifully, she can look like a princess,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
No, I get it, but honestly, it's everything's a risk. Everything is a risk. Casting ethnic looking, and I'd say that pejoratively almost, but like for Aladdin,
Hmm.
that's a risk by not casting someone who's kind of ethnically ambiguous,
Hmm.
right, to play
Hmm.
Aladdin,
Hmm.
someone who's more well known to play Aladdin. Like those are all risks. When you cast anyone in any musical, are they going to be able to sing? You
Right.
know what I mean? Like I've seen them. But how are they? Is their choreography on point?
Right.
Like all of that stuff's a risk. So like
Hmm.
I get that the fact that like it's a true like for most of America that's a truly fresh face.
Right.
It's a shame that it's taken this kind of this turn that's like, well, no, it is about race. Like,
Hmm.
let's be honest, it
Hmm.
is about
For
race,
sure.
right?
For sure.
And that's it's unfortunate
I'm
about that.
I'm going to disagree with you though, because I don't think that everything's a risk. Because I think when you automatically default to whiteness, they feel it's a safe play, and I don't think it feels risky for them in certain situations because they know that it will sell, quote unquote, or these people are safe, or like, oh, white people is the dominant race in this country, so everyone's going to feel comfortable seeing these people on the screen, regardless of what race they are, because that's what they've been known to be the default race their entire lives, be it black, be it Hispanic, be it Asian, and obviously white. So I'm going to challenge that a little bit because I don't think when you're casting a white person, they feel there's any risk involved unless it's like you're casting Russell Crowe to sing Javert and Les Mis. You're
Right.
there. That was the risk there, but it's
So
not
right.
casting him
Yeah.
as the white man.
All right, so you're in the casting room,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have like who of the white girls, who do you cast? Because like this thing, like they can look at things like, okay, well, Miley Cyrus, look at how many followers she has.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this. This is going to be like a Lady Gaga type
Right.
moment of A Star Is Born.
Mm-hmm.
This could be completely her thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or other people would be like, well, but what kind of downsides does that have?
So my for you're
Yeah.
talking about for Ariel,
Yeah.
correct? If anything, I would do what they did for Aladdin. I would cast someone that had played Little Mermaid on Broadway if they wanted to be safe, and then cast Ursula as a woman of color like Queen Latifah. Or, I mean, I wasn't for Lizzo, but I love Lizzo, and she's blowing up now, and people would go see it because everybody was championing for her to be. So I would cast a woman of color to be Ursula that has a bigger name than who would play Ariel, if that's and that would be safe, but also taking a risk in a
Yeah, because no
sense.
one really tripped out that Will Smith was playing the genie in
Well,
Aladdin.
they tripped out because they're
Did it
like,
really?
"Oh
Because
yeah."
that first trailer was not.
It was the first trailer, but his reviews after were
Mm,
really really great because he did do a good job. But
sure.
nobody knew who Aladdin and Jasmine were because you didn't need to know
Right.
because you had Will Smith at the helm of this movie.
So then, if they got a bigger name to play Ariel, would this be an issue?
Not if it was a white girl, no.
Oh yeah, no, of course not.
But like if you had like Kiki Palmer play her,
Mm.
people know who Kiki Palmer is.
Mm-hmm.
I still think there would have been an issue.
Wow.
I thought it was going to be Zendaya to be honest.
That's exactly what I thought it was going to be.
And if it was her, I don't know. I think maybe people will be a little bit more accepting of it because they kind of know who she is, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't know who
Yeah.
Halle Bailey is. But you're still gonna have those people come out of the woodwork like Ariel's supposed to be white and red hair and blah 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 blah
There's
blah
a
blah.
Christian Facebook group that is against this
Yeah, people
casting.
have
As
been
soon as you
posting
said
that.
Christian Facebook group, I was like, all bets are off. Whatever you're
Yeah.
gonna say next.
Right. There's a couple. There's some people on Twitter. Twitter's my favorite place to troll people and have them troll me. And I know I'm
Mm-hmm.
terrible and I need
Mm-hmm.
to find something else to do with my life, but I love it. But there's a lot of people on Twitter and I try to look and see, okay, is this a real person? Is this a bot? Is this a fake account? But there were a couple people that were truly passionate about it. Like, look, this was my childhood. This is nostalgic for me. I want to see what I knew. And I get that. I do. I respect that opinion. But it's okay to have something be a little bit different. It's okay.
So I wonder for us if they remade Coming to America
Mm-hmm.
and they weren't from Zamunda. They were from some mythical place in Europe, and it was a white cast.
What you know about Zamunda?
What you know about Zamunda? would we be upset?
Of course we would, because it's their race is imperative to
But
their
I'm saying if it
story.
wasn't Zamunda, or let's say it was the Last Dragon. You remember the Last Dragon, Barry Gordy's Last. That was probably one of my favorite movies of all
I
time
don't think
growing
I've
up.
seen that, to be
Oh my
honest.
I
god.
don't know about any of this stuff.
I know you don't.
John done about Last Dragon. So basically, it's a black family that grew up in New York, and the dad owns a pizza shop, and the son is like a kung fu guru. So like, there's no reason for them to be black. So if they make that with a white cast, um, we should be okay with it. But we wouldn't
But
be.
we're not okay with it, and the reason why we're not okay with it is because we have very little to have. We have very little in the first place.
Sure.
But if
That's
the
why.
argument is this is race is an imperative to the story,
Right.
so why can't we change
So
things?
technically, we shouldn't be mad.
That's what
Correct.
I'm saying. Right.
But this is, we know that there's more variables to this.
Of
We know.
course, yeah.
And yes, it is a hypocritical for sure. But I'm saying, yes, technically, we shouldn't be upset if they redid that story with a white family because the race has nothing to do with it. But the problem also is, on top of race being imperative to certain stories, black people of color, I'm not even just going to say black people of color, and that means everybody that is non-white, they do not have enough stories for their children or even as adults to look up to and be like, oh, I can connect to that person. I can relate to this story. I see myself on that screen. And that's why representation is so important.
And I think it, because I know where John's coming from, in the perspective of a producer, executive producer, a studio putting up the money to fund this film. Because like, if I say, well, there's not enough, Indian characters, we need characters from people from Sri Lanka who want to. There's not enough people to even go to a theater to pay for the budget that it's going to cost to make this movie. So I get that. So then there should be a way of inclusion where we're bringing in those characters, those people of color, into films that have enough to carry it, where they're not having to incur this risk or this budget loss. And I think if it's big films like live action, Lion King, Little Mermaid, whatever, that's a way to get people of color into these films. So you can start building out more, maybe spin-offs or more situations where it is an all-black cast, an
Right.
all-Indian cast, an all Southeast Asian cast, whatever it is. There's ways of doing it. I just think a lot of them are just lazy. And what's crazy is when you take the risk, typically it pays off. Because like, I know more black folks are probably gonna go watch The Little Mermaid because there's a black, and one because of the
sure.
controversy, but one because they casted a black person in it.
Does it outweigh the number of white folks who won't see it because of that?
They're
That's
still
the
gonna see
question.
it.
They're
White
still going to
folks
see
still
it,
gonna go.
one. And I think that we also are forgetting how valuable the black dollar is.
Yes. Yes.
Do you think Disney's forgetting that? You know what I mean? Like, this is the whole thing is like when Disney made this decision, like, why would they have done that? Again, like, because I'm much more the opinion of that, like, I don't see this as being bad. Because I do think that people will still see it, and then in fact, like, you can actually grow the pie by getting more people to see it.
For sure.
Because of this, and again, we're all talking about it for a reason.
Yeah,
Right.
no, for sure. I think it's going to do even better than we probably think it will because of this. I do. I think you have, the social justice warrior people that are not people of color that are going to go support it to, stick a whatever to the white people that don't want to see it because, and then you're going to get all the people of color to go see it because they finally feel like, oh, I get to see The Little Mermaid as someone that represents me. But I have a question for you guys, and I've mentioned this to John before when it comes to like casting or television, and I was talking about that one year when the Oscars were so white and there was no people, like literally no people of color nominated. But I read this article that said that a lot of TV and film truly represents what the actual population of the United States is.
Except for Asians.
Except for, yes, that's true. But they have their own thing, to be honest. Like, they just have their own stuff.
yeah.
And they really don't get involved in all this nonsense. I mean, they had Crazy Rich Asians, and I feel like they're like, we're good. I don't want to speak for Asian people because I'm not Asian, but I feel like they're just not going to be as loud as black people are about these situations. But I found that interesting that they're like, yeah, it sucks, but this actually accurately represents what the population is. And I'm curious what you guys think about that.
So we're talking about the population in terms of like
13% of
Is black people.
is
Black,
black people.
right.
So like you'd have 13% of roles going to black people.
It's an interesting way to look at it.
I honestly look at this way the same way I look at broader employment and even affirmative action in schools, which is just like the sheer number of things are entirely different when you look a little bit behind the numbers. So like, for instance, oh, okay, like if you're a black actor, right?
Mhm.
It's very in vogue to be Mahershala Ali, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Because like he's going to whatever he's like, he's looked at like, oh, he's gonna get an Oscar nom, no matter what, right?
Yeah.
Affirmative action, like it works really well for people of color who are in top universities.
Mhm.
There's a significant underrepresentation for people that are in state universities.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's because, like, honestly, if I were to take the SATs as a person of color and I get, I don't know, 1350, 1400, something like that. That's like it's good. It's not great, but I get admitted into Princeton, and I also get admitted into, just name some other kind of middling college
Mhm.
that's closer to home. Like, why would I ever forego Princeton?
Right.
So like you
Right.
have these people that like, and it's like, well, that's not fully rounded. It's not rounded out. It's like, or women in the actual workforce. It's like, no, it's approaching 50%. That's great. It's like, but what are the senior vice presidents?
Mhm.
Like who are what's the executives made of? Because like
Right.
when that number looks a lot different when you get to higher ranks, and those are people who tend to have a little bit more weight behind them, and they can fill out their teams, with their head counts. So like it doesn't the my take on it and my kind of criticism about the representation across the board is what's more meaningful than the sheer numbers.
Mhm.
Again, if I'm putting myself in, if I am an Asian American actor trying to make it in Hollywood, it doesn't look great.
Right.
Again,
Mm-hmm.
there's the Crazy Rich Asians. That's cool, and there's probably some other supporting characters. But
Mhm.
like, like what did John Chu, I think his name was, like it for Searching, or Daniel Day Kim. Like you have like two, or you have like a handful of these guys
And
that
then you
have
just
kind
have
of made
like
it.
Jackie Chan, who is a
Yeah,
Right.
different brand,
right.
yeah,
And
in
then you
movies.
have
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and then it's everyone else is just kind of like it's just small bit parts. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you're credited. This is fine. But like when you look behind it, it's rough. Which isn't to say that like I still don't know if that's wrong, because like when you look like I don't know. I don't know.
So I guess like to your point, how you were comparing the workforce, like yeah, there might be a lot of women in the middle management section,
Yeah.
but they're not in the executive in the
Right.
in the upper. I think that's kind of the point we made earlier about all the TV shows. They were kind of middle management shows. There was a bunch of those.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of the just
Mhm.
regular old shows we could just watch. It
Yeah.
wasn't like we always had Denzel, we always had Morgan Freeman, we always had
Right.
Will Smith, but it was those middle management type shows that we could see on a regular basis kind of consume, and that kind of gave us this feeling of just like, okay, I have a feeling about myself and my environment. I see something that's similar to me, something that's not similar to me, but it's still me.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That's what's gone. That's
Yeah.
where we're like, where did that go? Because now Blackish kind of is that executive show. It's like it's the only show we really
Right.
have to look up to, or it's something like Power, which is like that. What the hell is
Yeah.
that? That's nowhere near what I'm
Right.
living like.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's like
Right.
it's just such a weird, diverse, like dearth of those kind of shows. So part of it is on us again to get those out there, but it's also taking a risk, like Black Panther. That was a ridiculous risk to take with a guy who doesn't, Ryan Coogler, with Michael B. Jordan, all these people. Like, you really don't have any kind of, and it killed.
It
Mhm.
was so good.
No,
Yeah.
it was so good.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it doesn't mean the next one they do is going to be as great, but look, take a chance, see what happens again. Or that's a Jordan Peele type person. There's obviously risks that could be taken that you've seen. There's been rewards to that you can also probably eat a couple. Okay, we'll take a loss on this. You can take
Mhm.
several with Adam Sandler movies. I mean,
I mean,
come on.
only Netflix has taken those now, right?
Well, now
Well, Netflix takes
now.
everything. It seems.
Previous to that, we had several horrific.
No,
Adam
for
Sandler
sure,
movies.
for sure, and like feature film like
Yes,
release, which is
huge.
crazy. But he has a very specific demographic that I just don't think he has anymore. It was like when you, John, were like a teenager, is when
You're
he
the
was
same
thriving.
age, so yeah,
She just said
yeah.
Well, you're a little older than me.
when you
but
were a
it's-
white
yeah.
teenager.
Yeah. When you were a very
when
white,
you were,
Yeah.
you were very white.
remember
You're
when
not
you
as
were
white
younger
now.
and
You
you
got
were
a black
white.
wife, so
But seriously, like I rub on him so much. Sometimes I look at him like, "Why are you so black right now?" I do. like, well, this was a good conversation.
yeah.
So, what would you suggest, since you work in Sony Pictures, because we're in this nostalgia phase and they are just rebooting a lot of stuff? But how would you suggest to people to get like original material? It just has to be really good.
It has to be really, yeah. It's that's the end of the day, right? Um, I honestly, like, aside from what I've said,
Hmm.
it's rough.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just
I
rough.
mean,
Like
plain and
that's all I
simple.
can. There are people who will stake their entire lives on getting their stories out there and making those as polished as possible. And it's like
Hmm.
it's just a rough slog. I think that the other thing is like we can talk about how things are broken and everything, but like if you look at the things, I think the intentions behind a lot of people are getting better.
Hmm.
And maybe it's like the old dinosaurs that need to die off, like
Yeah.
across a
Yes.
lot of part of society.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So like maybe that's just, and I don't want to say it's a waiting game, but like I think there are significant resources, and especially with the Me Too movement, with the Times Up movement, there's a spotlight on this stuff.
Yeah.
With Frances McDormand when she had mentioned like getting those writers in for that, and it's honestly it's getting more people to buy on to
Hmm.
that and just look a little bit broader,
Hmm.
to truthfully tell the most interesting, most nuanced story that they can. And honestly, it's people like Disney that are doing this in the first place. Like we're talking about it, but like they aren't, pulling back on that casting. They're like, yeah, what?
Yeah. No, it's
So
true.
like,
It's true.
I think we need to give some credit to that. And that, I mean, that's it. It's just it's rough, but people are doing it.
I guess, and I also want to figure out if this will change. It's just the tension between people and the representation of that's not what I know, it's not what I like, so I don't want to see that. Like, does that change ever? Like, what if they made Triton, King Triton? What if they made him gay? And they just do another merman down there because they don't have a. Because look, there's no mom
Well,
in the
now you're
original
just
story.
changing the story.
Why not? I'm saying just make him gay because there's no wife in the original story. You
Right.
just throw another dude down there and they send
Right.
Ariel off. Okay, cool. Would that have been okay? I'm saying like, when do we have to get to the point where we stop having such a tight? Like, it's got to be this way. There's no like, you know, how do you put it? There's no reason why we can't add to these stories and change to them. We've been doing it for centuries.
But
Like,
also, it's not our story. Disney can do whatever the heck they
right.
want.
They stole it from somebody, so it's like whatever.
That's true. The original, but nobody's trying to actually have the Hans Christian Andersen versions of these stories
No,
because they are morbid as all get out.
that would
But
be fun. Honestly, I might like to see some of those done like to the original
they're
written
horrifying.
representation. I
Have you
know they
read
are.
them?
Brothers
Yeah,
Grimm.
Brothers Grimm and all
Yeah.
that.
Like
Yeah.
they're horrifying.
them,
So when
yeah.
people are like, "This
It's
isn't,"
great.
of course you do.
See?
But like when people are like, "This isn't the original story," it's like, do you know what the
You know
original
the
story
story
is?
is?
I don't think you
Exactly.
really want the original story.
I think all this boils down to people having too much time
Oh, for sure.
and having just a megaphone at their fingertips.
Yeah, absolutely.
And see, it's the way they're playing it out too. Like, I don't remember movies back in the day, where they like announce the cast per character. Like this
Well,
is
there was no platform to do it on.
true.
Yeah, well, you
That's
could,
different.
or you could just put a release in Deadline or Variety or something, but then it
But
doesn't
still
get
doesn't get to
disseminated.
everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, right. So
Because
that's
this is like character per character. Oh my God, this person's
Yeah.
playing, and it's like a huge deal. I'm like, when?
Of
When did we start
course.
doing this?
well,
'Cause
there's
people
yes,
like
yeah.
again, check the charts for trending hashtags on Twitter. Like there, if you are in Disney and you're in marketing, you love seeing that stuff, and
For
you want to
sure.
draw
Oh,
that
yeah.
out to the greatest extent possible.
Absolutely. But also for us as humans, how we've evolved, there's a sense of immediacy as well. Like we
Yeah.
have to know everything right away. So if we didn't know who the cast was before we saw the trailer, we'd be like, why didn't they announce it? Why didn't we know that this person was going to be in it? Blah, 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 blah. I mean, they already released the trailer for Mulan, and that's not even out until March of next year.
Oh wow, they're
You
doing live
know?
action Mulan.
Yeah, but there's some issues because there's
She's
no
black.
Mushu.
Ash, you
My
should
name
be.
is Mulan.
Oh my God, could you imagine? No, see, Mulan's race is imperative to her story.
Right.
But yeah, there's no Mushu, there's no Shang, and there's no songs.
Don't know any of these people.
I know you don't. Well, you need to have a Disney night. He will not have a Disney night with me.
What?
He won't.
You don't even have
he's-
a favorite Disney movie or story?
I'd have to think about it. I like The Lion King a lot.
Okay, mine's Jungle Book.
I like John.
Did you like the live action Jungle Book?
I did.
I liked it
I
too.
did.
I do. I really
good.
think that John Favreau did a great job, and I can't
Yeah.
wait to see Lion King. I'm really excited.
John
for it.
Favreau in general is just solid.
He is.
Yeah.
He's fantastic.
He's dope.
He
I
really
appreciate it.
is. Well, we are glad that you guys tuned in today and joined in on the conversation of representation.
Thanks for hanging out, John.
Yes. Thanks, John.
Oh, yeah.
You were coerced. You didn't
I
have a
was.
choice. It's okay. It was our marriage vows. So let us know what you think. And of course, at the end of each episode, we always talk about a person, community, or organization that is doing good in the world. And today, y'all just need to follow Disney because they're doing good in the world because they cast a black Ariel. So
Right.
that's the organization that I need y'all to follow.
Get on with that,
Okay.
Disney.
Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, message us, let us know what you think, and we will talk to you next week.
Peace.
Bye.
And this episode of We Need to Talk is brought to you by Black Brew, the darkest, richest, boldest coffee anywhere.